In ancient traditions, there's a concept called the threshold, a sacred moment between who you were and who you're becoming. The shamans understood that transformation doesn't happen gradually. It happens in a single step. One moment you're on one side of the threshold, the next moment you're on the other, and you can never go back. Not because the old life isn't there anymore, but because you're not the same person who lived it. The decision is the threshold, not the preparation, not the planning, not the perfect timing. The decision. And every person who's ever transformed their life, doesn't matter what tradition, what culture, what era, they all describe the same moment. The moment they stopped considering and started committing. The moment the debate ended and the journey began. You're standing at your threshold right now. The question isn't whether you'll eventually cross it. The question is whether you'll cross it today. This video reveals the exact moment everything changes. Not when circumstances improve, not when you finally have enough courage, but when you make one irreversible decision that reorganizes your entire life around a new truth. Most people think transformation is a process, but it's actually a point, a singular moment of commitment that creates a cascade of change. We're going to expose why you've been waiting, what you're actually afraid of, and how the decision itself, not the outcome, generates the power to transform everything. This isn't about motivation that fades. It's about understanding the mechanism of real change. The decision is the transformation. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're standing on a bridge. It's a long bridge, suspended between two pieces of land. Behind you is the land you know, the familiar territory. Maybe it's painful. Maybe it's disappointing. Maybe it's suffocating. But it's known. You understand the rules there. You know how to survive there. Even if you're not thriving, you know how to make it through each day. It's predictable. And predictable, even when it's painful, feels safe to your nervous system. And ahead of you, on the other side of this bridge, is different land, new territory. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's everything you've been dreaming about. Maybe it's freedom and possibility and the life you actually want. But here's the thing. You can't see it clearly from where you're standing. There's fog. There's uncertainty. You don't know exactly what's over there. You just know it's different. And different is terrifying. So you've been standing on this bridge. And here's what you probably haven't realized. You've been standing here for a long time. Maybe months, maybe years. Walking back and forth, looking behind you at the familiar land, looking ahead at the unknown land, weighing the options, making lists, thinking about it, analyzing it, asking people's opinions, waiting for a sign, waiting for the right moment, waiting to feel ready. And meanwhile, you're living on the bridge. And the bridge is exhausting because the bridge is neither place. It's the in-between. It's the place of indecision. And indecision is its own kind of hell. Every single day you stand on that bridge, you're using enormous amounts of energy. Not to move forward, not to grow, but to manage the internal war. Because there are two parts of you fighting constantly. One part is saying, go, move, change. You can't stay here. You're dying here. You know what you need to do. And the other part is saying, wait, not yet. What if you're wrong? What if you fail? What if you regret it? Stay where it's safe. And these two voices are going at it 24/7. When you wake up in the morning, when you're trying to fall asleep at night, in the middle of meetings, while you're having conversations. This negotiation is always running in the background, draining you. And here's what most people don't understand. The suffering isn't coming from either side of the bridge. The suffering is the bridge itself. The suffering is the indecision. The suffering is the constant negotiation. Because as long as you're standing there, you're not actually living. You're not in your old life anymore. You've already outgrown it. You already know you can't stay there. But you're not in your new life either because you haven't committed to it. You're in limbo. And limbo is where dreams go to die. I lived on a bridge for 3 years once. 3 years. And I didn't even realize I was doing it until someone pointed it out to me. I was in a relationship that was safe, comfortable. We cared about each other. There was history, there was friendship, but there was no aliveness, no passion, no growth. We were just coexisting, going through the motions, and I knew it wasn't right. I knew we were both settling. I knew that if this was going to be my life, I would spend the rest of it feeling half dead inside. But I was terrified to leave, terrified to hurt her, terrified to be alone, terrified that maybe I was wrong and I'd regret it and I'd never find anything better and I'd end up miserable and lonely. So I stayed. But I didn't really stay. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, making plans in my head about leaving while still showing up every day, having conversations with friends about whether I should go while never actually making a move, reading books about relationships and compatibility and trying to figure out if I was being unrealistic. And meanwhile, she could feel it. Of course she could feel it. How could she not? When you're with someone who's standing on a bridge, looking both ways, you feel it in your bones. And it was slowly poisoning both of us. Not the decision to stay or the decision to leave, the indecision, the being stuck, the constant questioning. And then one night, we were sitting at dinner. Nothing dramatic was happening, just a regular Tuesday night. And I looked at her and I realized this negotiation will never end on its own. I could do this for another 3 years, another 10 years. I could spend my entire life on this bridge, walking back and forth, weighing the options, waiting to feel certain. But certainty doesn't come before the decision. Certainty comes from the decision. And in that moment, sitting across from her, I made it. I decided. Not because I suddenly had perfect clarity, not because I stopped being afraid, but because I realized staying on the bridge was worse than either option. And the second I made that decision, everything shifted. Not eventually, immediately. I didn't say anything in that moment, but I felt it in my body, this wave of relief that was almost overwhelming. Because the negotiation was over. The war was over. I had decided. And even though the conversation I needed to have was going to be one of the hardest of my life, even though I knew there was pain ahead, even though nothing about the external situation had changed yet, I was different. The decision had already transformed me, because I was no longer the person standing on the bridge. I was the person who had chosen a direction, and you cannot go back from that. Now, here's what I need you to understand about this internal negotiation that's been running in your life, because I know you have one. Everyone does. Maybe it's about a relationship like mine was. Maybe it's about a job. Maybe it's about where you live. Maybe it's about pursuing a dream you've been postponing. Maybe it's about setting a boundary. Maybe it's about leaving something toxic. Maybe it's about starting something new. But you know what it is. You've known for a long time, and you've been negotiating. And the negotiation sounds so reasonable. It sounds so mature. I'm just being careful. I'm just making sure. I'm just waiting for the right time. I'm just gathering more information. I'm just being responsible. But that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is you're bargaining with yourself. You're trying to find a way to get the outcome without making the decision. You're trying to figure out how to have the new life without letting go of the old one. You're trying to transform without committing. And it doesn't work. It can never work. Because transformation doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from making a choice and becoming the person who lives with that choice. The part of you that wants to change keeps presenting evidence. Look how unhappy you are. Look how stuck you are. Look at all the signs that it's time to move. Look at how everyone else is moving forward while you're standing still. And the part of you that wants to stay safe keeps countering. But what if it gets worse? What if you're making a mistake? What if you can't handle it? What if you fail? What if you end up alone? What if you lose everything? And these two voices are evenly matched. They're designed to be evenly matched because one represents your expansion and one represents your survival. And both are trying to protect you in their own way. But here's the truth. This negotiation will never resolve itself. Ever. You will never think your way to a place where both voices agree. You will never gather enough information to make one voice shut up. You will never wait long enough for the fear to completely disappear. The negotiation is designed to go on forever unless you end it. And you end it with a decision. Not a perfect decision, not a safe decision, not a decision that makes everyone happy. Just a decision. A real one, a final one. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I choose wrong? And I'm going to tell you something that might sound harsh, but I need you to hear it. You're already making a decision. Every day you stay on that bridge, you're deciding. You're deciding that indecision is acceptable. You're deciding that limbo is tolerable. You're deciding that the negotiation is worth more than the life you could be living. That's a choice. It might not feel like a choice because you're not doing anything. But inaction is action. Not deciding is a decision, and it's the most expensive decision you can make because you're paying the cost every single day. So, what actually happens in your body and brain the moment you make this decision? Because there's real science here. Neuroscientists have studied this. There's something they call the commitment point, the moment where your brain stops simulating and starts executing. Before that point, you're in analysis mode. Your prefrontal cortex is running scenarios, weighing options, trying to predict outcomes. It's exhausting. It requires enormous cognitive resources. And it keeps you stuck because your brain can always find reasons to wait, reasons to question, reasons to stay in analysis. But the moment you make a real decision, and I mean a real one, not I'll try or maybe or probably, your brain shifts. It stops simulating and starts planning. It stops questioning and starts executing. All that energy that was going into the negotiation, all that mental bandwidth that was being used to manage cognitive dissonance and internal conflict, suddenly becomes available for action. People think they find new energy after making a hard decision. They don't find it. They reclaim it. It was always theirs. It was just being wasted on indecision. And here's what else happens. Your identity shifts instantly. You don't become the person who can make the change and then make it. You make the decision, and that creates the person. Identity follows commitment, not the other way around. The second you decide, your brain starts reorganizing your sense of self around that commitment. You're no longer the person who's thinking about leaving the job. You're the person who's leaving. You're no longer the person who wants to start a business. You're the person who's starting one. The decision creates the identity, and the identity creates the actions, and the actions create the results. This is why some people seem to transform overnight, while others stay stuck for decades. It's not that they're more capable. It's not that they have more resources. It's not that they're more courageous. They just reached the commitment point. They made the decision. They crossed the threshold. And once you cross it, you can't go back. Not because the door closes behind you, but because you're not the same person anymore. You can't unknow what you now know. You can't unfeel what you felt. You can't go back to pretending you don't know what needs to change. So here's what I want you to do right now. And I mean right now. Not after this video. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. I want you to get out a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone. And I want you to write at the top, the decision I've been avoiding is. And then I want you to complete that sentence with brutal honesty. Not the nice version. Not the version that sounds good. The real one. The one you've been dancing around. The one that keeps you up at night. Write it down. And then underneath that, write, I've been avoiding it because. And list everything. Every excuse. Every fear. Every justification. Every reason you've been telling yourself it's not the right time, or you need more information, or you should wait a little longer. Get it all out. All the noise. All the negotiation points. All the arguments you've been having with yourself. Write them down so you can see them. Because when you see them on paper, you'll realize how much energy they're taking. You'll realize how heavy they are. You'll realize you've been carrying this weight for so long, you forgot what it felt like to not carry it. And then I want you to write. The cost of not deciding is, and really feel into this. What is it costing you to stay on this bridge? What are you missing while you're standing here? What's dying while you're negotiating? What version of your life is slipping away while you're waiting for perfect clarity? Write it down. Because the cost is real. It's not hypothetical. Every day you don't decide, you're paying it. And then, and this is the most important part, I want you to write, my decision is, and I want you to complete it in present tense. Not I'm going to. Not I'm thinking about. Not maybe. My decision is, period. I'm leaving this job. I'm ending this relationship. I'm starting this business. I'm moving to that city. I'm setting this boundary. I'm pursuing this dream. Whatever it is, write it as a declaration. Write it as truth. Write it as done. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen when you do this. You're going to feel resistance. You're going to feel fear. Your survival brain is going to kick in and try to pull you back to negotiation. It's going to say, wait, are you sure? What if you're wrong? Don't you want to think about this more? And that's normal. That's expected. That's your nervous system doing its job of trying to keep you safe by keeping you the same. But here's what I need you to know. The fear doesn't mean you're making the wrong decision. The fear means you're making a real one. A decision that matters, a decision that will change you. And that's exactly what you need. After you write it down, you need to make it real in your body, not just your mind. You need to tell one person who will hold you accountable. Speak it out loud to someone who matters. Because the moment you speak it, it moves from internal to external. It becomes real in the world, not just in your head. And then you need to remove one exit route, one backup plan, one way you could still go back, whatever that means for your situation. Delete the number, cancel the safety net. Do the thing that says to your nervous system, I'm serious. This isn't negotiable anymore. I've crossed the threshold. And then, and this is critical, within 24 hours, you need to take one action. Doesn't have to be the biggest action, doesn't have to be the scariest action, just the first action. Because the decision means nothing if it doesn't lead to movement. If you decide you're starting a business, register a domain tomorrow. If you decide you're leaving a relationship, start looking at apartments. If you decide you're getting healthy, throw out the junk food tonight. One action. To prove to yourself that the decision is real. Here's what I need you to understand as we bring this home. Your life doesn't change when circumstances finally align. It doesn't change when you finally feel ready. It doesn't change when you finally have perfect clarity or zero fear. Your life changes the second you decide. That's it. That's the mechanism. The decision reorganizes everything. Not eventually. Immediately. Your identity shifts. Your energy shifts. Your trajectory shifts. Your possibilities shift. All from the decision. And I know you're afraid. I know you're thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if I fail? What if I regret it? But let me ask you this. How long are you willing to live on that bridge? How many more years are you going to spend in the negotiation? How much more of your life are you going to give to indecision? Because that's the real question. Not whether the decision is perfect, but whether you're willing to stay stuck. And here's what nobody tells you. You're going to doubt, even after you decide. Doubt will come. Fear will come. Questions will come. That doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you made a real choice. A choice that matters. A choice that requires you to grow into it. And that's exactly what you need. Not a safe choice. Not an easy choice. But a choice that makes you become someone new. The shamans were right. Transformation happens at the threshold. Not before it, not after it, at it. In that single moment of decision. In that single step. And once you cross, you're different. You can't go back because you're not the same person who would go back. The old life is still there. But you're not. You've become someone else. Someone who chose, someone who committed, someone who decided that living was worth more than safety. Your new truth. Say it with me right now. I am no longer negotiating with my life. I am no longer waiting for permission or perfect timing or absolute certainty. I am deciding, right now. And everything changes from this moment forward, not because the path is clear, but because I'm finally walking it. Say it again. I am no longer negotiating with my life. I am no longer waiting for permission or perfect timing or absolute certainty. I am deciding, right now. And everything changes from this moment forward, not because the path is clear, but because I'm finally walking it. If this landed, if you felt that shift, if something clicked into place, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the decision you're making today? Not the one you're thinking about, the one you're making. Say it out loud. Make it real. Let this community be witness to your commitment, because there's power in declaration. There's power in being seen in your choice. And if you're ready for more content, that doesn't just make you feel inspired for 5 minutes, but actually gives you the tools to transform your life in real, tangible ways, hit that subscribe button. Not for me, for you, because you deserve to be surrounded by truth that challenges you to become more, not content that lets you stay comfortable. You're standing at the threshold right now, in this moment, not theoretically, not eventually, right now. And you have a choice. You can keep standing here, keep negotiating, keep waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. Or you can take the step, make the decision, cross the threshold, and become the person who lives on the other side. Your old life is behind you. Your new life is ahead of you. And the bridge between them? It's time to get off it. Not because you're certain, not because you're not afraid, but because you're finally ready to live. And living requires choosing, deciding, committing, moving. The threshold is here. The moment is now. And you're the only one who can cross it. So what's it going to be? Another year of negotiation? Another year of standing on the bridge? Another year of wondering what if? Or are you going to decide? Are you going to step? Are you going to cross? Because your life changes the day you make this one decision, not the outcome of the decision itself. That's where the power lives. That's where the transformation happens. That's where you become someone new. You're not waiting for the right moment. You are the moment. Now decide and watch everything change.